everyone. Tonight, this is the regular meeting of August 19th, 2024. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the first item on the agenda is communications.
Ms. Banks, roll call.
Oops, I'm sorry. That would help, right?
Thank you,
Madam Clerk, roll
thank
call.
you, Council President Banks. Council President Banks.
Present.
Councilman Brightwell. Councilman Cruz. Councilwoman Haynes. Councilman Hicks.
Here.
Councilwoman Hogg. Here. Council President Mandelbaum is absent with notice. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I was getting ahead of myself. We have no appointments this evening. And the next item is communications. The Southfield City Council has established the following rules of procedure for all speakers. No speaker may make personal or impertinent attacks upon any officer, employee, or city council member or other elected official that is unrelated to the manner in which the office, employee, or city council member or other elected official performs his or her duties. No person shall use abusive or threatening language toward any individual when addressing the city council. Any person who violates this section shall be directed by the presiding officer to be orderly and silent. If a person addressing the council refuses to become silent when so directed, such person may be deemed by the presiding officer to have committed a breach of the peace by disrupting and impeding the orderly conduct of the public meeting of the city council, and may be ordered by the presiding officer to leave the meeting. If the person refuses to leave as directed, the presiding officer may direct any law enforcement officer who is present to escort the violator from the meeting. The council may not provide responses to public comments during the meeting. If you have provided your contact information when you signed up for public communications, the city will provide a more formal response to you in the near future. So the first person who has signed up is Matt Pisco.
Through the chair, you're probably going to want to call me a buffoon. I'm speaking for Kroger. I just put my name down as somebody that will be speaking later on, so I have nothing for the first public.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I'll be item 10B, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Michael Watkins.
Hey, my name's Michael Watkins. I live at 24616 Templar Avenue. I just want to follow up with concerns on a sewage backup issue on 20 June 2024, as well as April 23, 2022. These type of events have never occurred prior to the installation of the new storm drains in the pump at 10 Mile and Pierce. And it was stated at the council meeting on 1 July that the preliminary report showed the pump was working fine at that time. But for me, that kind of equates to, the car was working fine when it went through the red light and hit my vehicle. Just because it's working fine does not mean it was doing the right thing. These events never occurred prior to the work of the new storm drains and that pump being in there. So it's like a problem was introduced when none existed. Since then, there has been no communications or information provided to the residents? And we need answers, and it's kind of like a code of silence here. I emailed about this issue back in 2022, and nobody returned or responded to my email. On the pump data will show what happened when these events occurred, and there's a data trail on the operation of that pump. If the pump is at fault, it will show either a programming error or a human error. If the pump was not at fault, then it is the installation of new storm drains. We both know that it doesn't even need to be raining for a backup occur. This last sewage backup, it was not raining when it occurred. Leads us to say, we really have questions, and it comes down to really two answers. Kind of sorry we wasted your bond money on this new storm drain system because it doesn't work as it's designed. So the residents need to go and do whatever they can to protect their health and their property. Or you did find some issues with the systems, you take responsibility and you work on the correct problems. So, it's really, are you going to provide the answers and communicate with the residents about what's really going on there? Because we have no idea and we do not know what to do. Thank you.
Thank you. We will have someone get back with you.
I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Gilbert Bailey.
I'm Gilbert Bailey. I live at 23935 Rockingham Street in the Green Dolphin subdivision. And several years ago, I emailed Mr. Frazier what I'm about to read to you today, as well as the mayor. It says, greetings, Mr. Frazier. I pray all is well with you and your family, and I'm sending you this email regarding the street and curb in front of my home, 23935 Rockingham Street. The foundation is consistently crumbling, and I am removing chunks of concrete because as vehicles roll over the broken concrete, it breaks down more and more of the undamaged areas of the street. 2 years ago, the mayor came out to my home and firsthand observed the problem. He agreed that replacement should resolve the issue. However, there was no funds available to replace the concrete at that time. So the city came out, as they have done in years past, and poured blacktop granules into the damaged areas. Those granules loosened up, and the problem continues to get worse. Due to the crumbling, it has caused issues with my snowblower, and more than anything, a terrible eyesore. My neighbors have also agreed to this, that this concrete needs to be corrected. My wife and I have been living in Green Dolphin now for really over 27 years, and we love it and have no intentions of leaving. We put a new roof on last year and have plans of doing more remodeling, and I would also like to put in a new driveway. I've been saving the chunks of concrete in a crate to show the seriousness of this problem. I'm sending you these photos so you can see firsthand what we're dealing with. The city came out last year and drew purple lines around the damaged area as if the problem would be resolved. But the lines have disappeared due to the weather. They send the street cleaner out, but it only loosens the blacktop and spreads those granules around in front of my neighbor's house. And it's not a good look. I believe you guys may have a copy of each one of these in your mailboxes and or pictures that I have actually taken, and this is what it actually looks like. And it's getting worse. And it needs to be repaired properly, not the blacktop.
Ms. Banks,
Yes.
as Mr. Bailey said, I didn't go out to his home. I asked our Public Works Department, because other work was done in the neighborhood, and asked that this be on the spot repair list. I was told by the recently retired Public Works Director that it would be done, and it hasn't. This should be taken care of.
Mr. Bailey, we will contact the new acting public Works Director, and he will get back with you on the situation,
Thank you very much.
okay?
Have a
And you
great
should
day.
hear something within this week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
The next person is Harold Tyler.
Good evening. My name is Harold Bernard Tyler, Jr. My wife is here too, Diana Clowney Tyler. I live at 19210 Silvercrest Street, Hampshire Woods. And I'm here because on the corner of
that the backups did not occur before the project the city had done in their area. I agree with the first speaker. More needs to be done about a resolve. I can't imagine having raw sewage back into my basement every time it rains. We have Beechwood community who's been asking and looking for grant funding from this council and our elected and appointed officials that pledged in 2016 to look into grant funding to help people cushion connecting from the septic to sewer line. This council and our elected and appointed officials have not yet provided a response to if they even tried to get grant funding. That's 2016. More needs to be done with making your residents the priority. After a while, your residents won't even be able to live in their homes. In fact, they can't with raw sewage in the basements every time it rains. Think of the people who have daycare centers in their basements. So now they not only can't live in their homes, they can't even provide a life or a professional livelihood for their family. Health conditions, environmental concerns, those are huge, huge issues. We need for you to focus on those things and make that the priority. Because right now, if people can't afford to live in their homes who have lived here already 15, 20 years, it makes no sense to try to build more properties if the infrastructure can't support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Keith Harris.
How you doing today, Keith Harris? You know, I absolutely support what my wife was saying because I've worked construction my whole life, and when you have these flooded basements, you just can't go in and clean it up. The black mold spores are already soaked into the wood. Once the wood starts drying, and behind the wood, the concrete all turns black, and the spores are still in the home. Very dangerous to inhale. You cannot clean it up from the outside. The walls have to all be torn down. The floors have to be removed. If you have tiles down, that have to be removed. Very, very dangerous when your basement flood, because soon as the winter set in and your furnace cut on, that's when it's going to even have more respiratory issues on the families that's living in these homes. I got friends, and all they do is embankment. They do large embankment jobs. And these homes are totally contaminated forever. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is mental health. I noticed where they're giving more money to mental health here in Oakland County and Southfield. That I've been speaking on for a long time, because we all know mental health does not discriminate. You could be the smartest person in the world, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, but if you have undiagnosed issues and you are not getting the treatment that you need for these issues. We have people in this room with undiagnosed issues. We had a doctor at a voting poll with undiagnosed issues. Mental health is an issue in Southfield. We had a hostage situation, and our police department stayed out there for about 15 hours, you know, a man holding his wife and his kids hostages. You know, we got to take mental health seriously, and we got to be protected at our voting polls and our public schools. One of the subjects I'm deeply working on right now, I've never shown the media the videotapes of what we received from leaving middle school. I've never shown the media the videotapes from the 911 calls, because I find these things to be embarrassing, to know that we are so far behind in just everything, the needs of our children, unprotected. We got a lot of work to do here in Southfield, a lot of work to do, and only y'all can do it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jessica Rieger.
I apologize. I misunderstood the signing up.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I misunderstood the signing, so you can disregard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the next person on the list too, Maurice. So we did that. We misread the sign-in sheet, so we're here to discuss the project later on in the presentation. So sorry about that.
It's okay, thank you. Amy Gibson. Do I get 2 time clocks? Because theirs is, I think it says 3. Just want to say thank you for. Can you speak?
She wants you to reset her time.
Oh, it is? No,
it
just did, okay. No.
Good.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come and express my concern. It's something that I have written and talked to the mayor, and I've talked to maybe the president about, is an area that I was just new to, and until it just happened to me in my home, which is a group home that moved next door to me. That was a new issue for me because I've never even heard of one until one actually moved next door. And no disrespect to human life, I know people need places to live. I know that's a human right, and I really feel for people who are in that position, but honestly, I do not think they belong in residential areas. I firmly believe, I mean, I've been living in this situation for about 2 years. I'm not, just not my first time coming here. And so many things that is happening. You know, I mean, you know, some of the residents come out, one in particular, no shirt, some of them sleep on the grass. There's one person that clears his throat like it's a habit, you know, and just imagine if you're trying to have breakfast and you're listening to this day in, day out. I mean, I have a 13-year-old niece that I have to care for, is under my care, and I'm told there's up to maybe 5 men that live in this home, and it's a little disturbing, it's a little disheartening, you know. I want to see if we can put some kind of language behind this, you know, and I know what I hear back is, oh, it's not a city concern, it's a state concern. I mean, but we live here, and then it's very tough, honestly. It's very tough. I'm sorry, ma'am?
What street are you on?
I'm on Thorndike, Green Dolphin subdivision. Very disheartening. I just, you know, it's tough, you know, it's tough, you know. And the other thought is, maybe we can put some language behind what that looks like, you know, just not saying that people can have group homes, but what does it look like? Maybe zone it for families only in our community, or maybe require them to have fencing, or maybe require the owner to live next to their own group homes. Maybe have them have some volunteer opportunities, some education, something, you know, instead of the people just living there, just sitting there day in, day out. I work from home, and it's annoying. I mean, and they smoke, you know. They smoke outside. If you know anything about cigarette smoke, it lingers in the air. It doesn't just leave because he's outside smoking. If they're out there every day, every hour, I open my window and all I'm smelling is cigarette smoke. And if you think that smoke from Canada was bad, just imagine if you have to live with that every day. It's tough, you know. So I just want to just ask about some language behind that, as well as a deer. I mean, they're eating up everything in our community. You have to gate down everything, and it's just like, I feel like they pay taxes. I mean, I feel like they are on my porch. I feel like they're rodent, you know? So I'm over my time, and I just thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you. Just so you know, with reference to the group homes, that really is not within our jurisdictions anymore. The state took that over. However, maybe I can get someone to get in touch with you to explain that law further. And also regarding the deer, we have a commission that has studied the whole deer situation, and there's an excellent report on our website if you'd like to go and look at it and read their recommendations. And this body is considering some of the recommendations that they have made. So we have been studying the deer situation for several years, and I believe it was this year the report was presented to this body.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you know, like the bee, we need plants to live, and if they're eating up everything, they have no predator, that's a human right, you know, we have to live. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome, thank you.
I'd like to make a further comment on the group homes.
Yes.
As I mentioned to council last November at the inauguration, we must continue to put pressure on our state representatives to do something about this. We are inundated with group homes. We have over 70. Group homes are not going away. The state controls that. They don't tell us they're coming. They come into the neighborhoods. Some don't pay taxes because they're nonprofits, but basically they're a business. And what is, I've spoken out against this for years. I'm not saying do away with group homes. This is called community mental health. What I think is unfair is that especially minority communities get dumped with more group homes than other communities. I have talked to our 3 state representatives, and I've talked to our state senator. It's too much. It really needs to be done on a per capita basis. So many thousand people, you get a group home. Rather than Southfield gets 70, and then it encourages the non-licensed group homes, which are basically boarding houses. We don't want this in our neighborhood. It's too much. It's an incursion on quiet enjoyment of your home. I think I'm hoping that Representative Hoskins, who seems to have taken this up most seriously, will continue to do something about this. I've also spoken to a representative in the city of Detroit, state representative, because she brought this up not only about the number, but about the quality of care that doesn't happen in group homes. It is a problem.
Well, maybe this is something that can be brought before our legislative committee. We can bring in our lobbyist and also our state representative. Mr. Zorn, do you think that might be possible?
Well, I've done both.
Well, maybe we need to do
yeah.
it again. I'm not sure when
Well,
it was done last.
I can't be the only voice, and that's what I've told some of the residents. You need to raise your voice too, because I think when they hear me on this topic, it's Johnny One Note. He's talking the same thing. We've heard it, but we haven't had action. And I'm with the residents on this. I am absolutely, I've lived it myself, 2 doors down. All of the residents out on the clients, or whatever you want to term them, out on the street begging for money and cigarettes.
Thank you.
It's really intolerable.
Thank you. I'm going to continue on with this list, okay?
All right.
Thank you. The next speaker is Willie Davis.
Hello. My name is Willie Davis. I'm a resident of Virginia Street in the Mount Vernon subdivision. I guess I'm just here to echo what's already been said about the deer. When I moved to Southfield about 30 years ago, I'd see 1 or 2 deer every now and then. Now every day in my neighborhood or on my block in my yard, it's 3, 4, 5 of them. They've eaten all the hostas. They've eaten all my wife's flowers. They leave crap on the lawn that I have to clean up every day, because I don't know, it might be diseases in that manure, ticks, Lyme disease, ticks, and all of that. And I brought this to the animal control people. They tell me that, well, maybe you ought to contact Department of Natural Resources. So, well, you know, I says, well, maybe the city council can do that. Their voice is bigger than mine. So I don't know what you guys have done. I know you said, you mentioned some things you've done. I went to the meeting too before, and they had a couple of proposals to use either firearms or crossbows to get rid of them. And I don't know where that went, what the decision was on that. So I don't know, maybe you guys know about that, or?
I think it's still in discussion at this point, but we can get back with you. I believe it was going to go to one of the council subcommittees, because the actual Wildlife Commission has made another strong recommendation. And we're trying to get the communities from Farmington Hills and Oak Park, whatever we decide, to join in on this, because if Southfield just does it, the deer come from Oak Park and Farmington Hills, we're not accomplishing anything.
So a lot of people say, well, you know, I mean, don't hurt Bambi. Well, but Bambi's hurting me.
I
you
know.
So,
And then on the flip side, I know I've met young people who have moved into the city that said, we love the deer, we love the coyote, we love the animals, so it's,
yeah, well,
we're trying
you
to
know,
find
they
a
don't have to
balance.
put up with the deer eating everything that, you know, you want to make the neighborhood attractive, you know, you want neighborhood beautification. But I don't want my neighborhood being a pasture for deer to eat everything I put down. And I know that the deer population is just exploding. So, you know, and it's not going to stop until something's done about it. You know, so you guys are aware of it, so maybe you can approach the Department of Natural Resources, huh? And
Thank you.
tell me,
Thank you.
yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Mr. Greg Keeler?
This seems like a good day for sewers. We're not talking about them. And I'm glad. I have a question. For residents that don't have existing sewer lines, should they be given tickets and have to go to court for not connecting to a sewer line that's not there? Is that fair? Now, I'd like to get that in writing, whether y'all think it should be done, because it has been done. In 2000, November 22nd, LTU was asked about their right-of-way to put in a sewer line for a community. LTU said no. Now, this makes them good neighbors, I guess, since they said no to a community and wiped it out. There was a bid put out in 1999, phase 2 of when you were putting in the sewer lines, contract number 6, which had an alternate route for that neighborhood to have a sewer line put in. But no, I said that was 1999. That work has not been done. Now, was sewer lines put out there to be put in for that neighborhood? Yes. But was it done? No. I'd like to know why. I would love that also in writing. Next, I would like to talk about one of the things this weekend, me and my family went to go out to dinner. And so we were looking for a nice place to go eat within Southfield, but there was no real place to go eat. And I know there have been 3 people on council that have mentioned the same thing. So we ended up going to Madison Heights to go out to dinner. Now, it seems kind of odd to me that when Old Country Buffet wanted to come here, they were told no because it would hurt the other businesses around that were selling food. But now we have liquor stores here in Southfield stacked upon one another. I can get liquor, I can get boxed chicken, but I can't go to dinner. Why can't I eat dinner in the city I live in with my family? It's an ugly shame. And I should not be able to buy liquor every 1 mile away from my house. There is a liquor store on the right side of me or the left side of me. That makes no sense. And if you're making sure that they're selling chicken, isn't that also hurting the places that's selling chicken? Or is it that y'all did not pay attention to what council said before? That we didn't want things in here disturbing other business. And you did not have any other business have to come in here and talk about food, but you did about the liquor.
Thank
So I
you.
just wonder why y'all doing it.
Thank you. We'll get back with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mayor, did you have a question? Okay.
I would, Madam President, you get a ticket to the question, his question was, should you get a ticket for not connecting to sewer? You get a ticket for having a failed septic system. The ordinance says every 3 years, you have to have your septic system inspected. There was an inference in the statements. I want to be clear, LTU does have they are connected to a sewer system. So LTU is connected to a sewer system, and the history on this is that subdivision did not want to connect to sewers. There were 3 parts of the city that opted to not connect. So here it is 24 years later, when those septic systems have a fixed life, like any asset, 20, 30 years, when they can no longer pass, there's an issue. And the solution is the homeowners rebuild the systems, and it's been very difficult. We've gone through the economics, and we're happy to pull up the files again of what it would cost to connect that area. But when you look at it, at the time the city was making those decisions, they opted out. Now here it is 25 years later. But you only get a ticket for a failed septic system. And believe me, I can walk you through case by case where even the judges do a tremendous amount of hand-holding before we start writing, court orders. I mean, we move through that process in an effort to help people connect or get a statement that their system passes the test.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions on any of these items?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
item A.
Item A?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair.
Yeah. Online? I don't have anything online, I'm sorry.
Well, do I get a chance to speak? Council President Pro Tem, I didn't see any online requests from Ms. Gerald. So if you want to add her to the list. Oh, okay. So today, I'm sorry, it was missed for today.
Would someone like to recognize Ms.?
Can we recognize the person that would like to speak? What's your name, please? At least let her speak.
I'm sorry.
What's her name?
Who wanted to speak? Yes. You want to come forward?
I appreciate it, thank you.
And I'm
sorry you didn't get it. I was at work and I went online
Okay,
And I didn't print it.
thank you. I'm
You're
sorry
welcome,
that
and
it was
thank you
missed.
for allowing me to speak. My name is Bernice Lewis. I live at 603 Primrose Lane. I'm off of 10 Mile between Telegraph and Beach Road. Right across on the other side is Grogan, which is a short road. We have tried for many years to try to get a traffic light or some type of signage to break up the traffic from Telegraph going to Beach, because it makes it almost impossible, not impossible, to get out from Primrose Lane onto 10 Mile Road going westbound or coming off of Grogan to go eastbound on 10 Mile Road. We know that you can't, it takes a procedure. We just like to know, as a community, what can we do to assist to get this traffic light? If someone could help us, we would truly appreciate it. We had someone call last week, and they were told 10 Mile, I believe, is a city road, and Grogan is a county road, or vice versa. So they keep sending us to each other, to, you know, to the different people to tell us that, and they said they had to do a traffic study. Well, there's been enough accidents, they should have a traffic study for this. It don't have to be a light that hold 5 minutes, just long enough for us to get out in the morning and getting in the afternoon. I have a video, if you need it, to show you the traffic of about 2 weeks coming westbound on 10 Mile. I have a letter from one of the residents in the community. She's complaining. I have residents that are here that is from the community. We just would like to know what we could do to get something there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Lewis, if you would be so kind, if you would provide your email address and telephone number to the city clerk,
I will.
Clerk Jackson, so
Okay.
that someone can get in contact with you.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you could do that before, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I gotta step over there.
Be careful.
Huh?
Did a pretty good job.
Okay, so moving back to our consent item, we've asked for A to be pulled, and Mr. Brightwell, did you?
Yes, I have item H, item L, and item M for informational purposes.
H, L, and M?
M, yeah, M is in Mary.
Okay. Is there any other items, council? Okay. So consent item A is authorization for contract extension for the detention facility operations with Allied Universal Security Services.
Go easy on me, I'm filling in for somebody for this one. So Detective Dan Reston with the police department. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Hicks, your question?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Sir, good, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How long have we been contracting with Allied?
It's been, this current contract is for 3 years, and during that time, I'm sorry, at the initiation of that contract, it was a 5-year contract. So they've been with us for 3 years, and then they're simply requesting to extend 2 one-year periods off of that 3-year contract.
And I'm assuming since we want to execute one of those 1-year terms, that we want to continue service with Allied.
Correct.
Is there any benefit to executing the 1-year amendments versus just renegotiating another full contract?
At this time, it is not a market that is saturated with companies, as far as the companies that'll come in, provide all the services that the police department uses for housing individuals. And the pricing is consistent with what would be considered reasonable customary at the time of the initial contract, and the increases at 3% are considered market rate. The advantage to remaining with them is it can be terminated with a 60-day notice without cause. So, you know, should this be reevaluated in any fashion and determined, hey, there's a superior alternative here, or the services are no longer meeting the standards that are required, it can be terminated without cause. So it gives the city and the police department a lot of leverage if there is an issue. So the harm is low to remaining.
Okay. Thank you, sir, and thank you for your service.
Sure, yeah, thank you.
Okay, and the next item is H, authorization to extend lift station maintenance agreement with Hamlet Engineering Sales Company.
Good afternoon, Council.
Yeah, my concern with this is, it's, the contract expired in June, and since I've been on council, I have been disturbed. We have contracts expiring months, and then it comes to council. And I have talked on this numerous times about a contract. This is probably more of an administration issue for a citywide contract tracking mechanism, contract tracking tool. From my professional opinion, we have contracts that expire and you're dealing with them months after the contracts have expired. Those are missed opportunities for the city, numerous opportunities. And this comes at me about years ago when I brought up the fact about contract numbers being with, account numbers being with things that come before council. And I'm just going to mention, like I did before, that in the future, I'll be voting no on anything that comes to us with an expired contract. It's just a professional, it's just professional. There are missed opportunities when you don't deal with contracts adequately and timely. There are reasons that you can renew contracts timely. There are benefits to that. And so clearly, we are missing benefits. So more so than anything else, it's not directed at you, it's just directed at the whoever tracks contracts in the city. In the future, I will be taking that professional opinion on it. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. I agree, you know, this was one that slipped through the cracks. We'll keep a better track of them in the future.
Okay.
Thank you. The next item is authorization to award bid for bridge decking replacement at Barbarian Woods, Valley Woods, and replacement of 2 bridges at Evergreen Hills Golf Course.
Good evening, Council.
Mr. Brightwell?
Yeah, and with this one, this deals with another item that constantly gets my attention, is the contingencies associated with a lot of contracts and with a lot of things. What is the potential contingency that will cost us $23,000?
I have no idea. It could be something that we did not foresee. We certainly had our engineers looking at all 4 of these bridges, but as you know, with repairs and with replacements, sometimes there are unforeseen circumstances. The fact that we're doing 4 different bridges, all pedestrian bridges for the most part, 2 of them are at our golf course, and they're about $190,000. The rest of the contract is for the Barbarian Bridge and the Valleywood Bridge. These have not been repaired or replaced in a very long time. So the engineers gave us their best expert advice And so it was us being able to add that 10% so that if we didn't see something maybe that we could not see prior to the repair, so we just didn't want to have to come back to council. So
Okay.
just trying to be responsible.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the rationale, but I know I have asked the engineering department for, I think we should have gotten it the year in our fiscal year, but we have a habit of just adding 10% to anything. And so I just wanted to get a clarification. It's not directed at you or anyone. This
I
is just
understand.
more of a process of giving me a rationale. We know that this might fail, this might be, a little bit low or whatever. But I have, and I'll ask Mr. Zorn again through the administration, for the most recent, either fiscal year end or most recent, a period of time that the engineering department can give me and on the council, how much money was spent on contingencies for the last fiscal year or whether the last fiscal quarter, whatever is the most appropriate time frame for that dollar amount to be developed.
Sure. And for this particular project with these 4 bridges, we had some folks give us some estimated costs before we had the engineering done. And I can tell you that the total cost for some of those estimates were in the $80,000 range. When we had OHM come on board with us and take a deep dive into this, it was more significant. So we knew going into this that this was a significant project. It has to do with safety. And I just didn't want to call it close here, so.
Okay, all right, no problem. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, just
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. And then the next item is authorization to purchase batteries for electric Zamboni at the sports arena.
Sorry, that's me too.
Yeah, this one has to do with the useful life of the battery was 8 to 10 years.
Absolutely.
It's been 22 years. Why are we just now getting the battery? And what is the due date to have this battery arrive? Because it seems this thing could fall apart any day now, and we don't have it. We wouldn't have no way of dealing with the Zamboni.
Well, we have some symptoms of a Zamboni who is losing its charge, so to speak. So with this, we have 2 Zambonis. We have a propane Zamboni, and we have electric Zamboni. We were able to keep the battery going through proactive maintenance so that we could get a useful life out of these batteries. In this last year, what we have experienced is it took longer to charge the batteries. And secondly, they were lasting a shorter amount of time. And so that's our indication that it's time to move forward and get some new batteries. Where we take a risk is when we let this go for another year, what happens is you take the chance of having the Zamboni get stuck on the ice, and then we've got a real problem getting that Zamboni back to its charger. So we've had a couple of indications when we have used it. It is in tangent with our propane Zamboni. We like to keep both of them running right now. So it was time to invest in batteries. So while it's great that we've got a lasting life for them,
Right.
it was time right now to make this purchase.
Okay, so if we approve, this is approved tonight, when would the battery arrive?
I believe they're giving us an estimated time of September, the beginning of September.
Okay.
Yeah. Currently, we have a running propane Zamboni, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
So the consent items this evening are, A, authorization for contract extension for detention facility operations with Allied Universal Security Services. B, authorization to purchase ammunition for the police department. C, authorization to host a reception during the Detroit Regional Chambers 2025 Mackinac Policy Conference held May 27 to May 30th. D, schedule a regular meeting conducted as a committee of the whole meeting for Thursday, August 22nd, 2024 at 6:00 p.m. E, authorization to purchase OEM Ford parts and batteries. F, authorization to purchase replacement parts for dump trucks. G, authorization to purchase tires and related products for the motor pool and fire department. H, authorization to extend lift station maintenance contract with Hamlet Engineering Sales Company. I, resolution for governmental bodies, authorized MDOT maintenance agreement signatories. J, water leak relief program annual report. K, audit service contract renewal. L, authorization to award bid for bridge decking replacement at Barbarian Woods, Valley Woods, and replacement of 2 bridges at Evergreen Hills Golf Course. M, authorization to purchase batteries for electric Zamboni at the sports arena. N, IP flexible reach and manage dedicated internet service replacing Centrex and legacy services. O, economic development initiative, application for a new facility, neighborhood enterprise zone certificate for Lazar Road, Duns Scotus Neighborhood Enterprise Zone, District Number 1. If there are no further questions, can I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as identified by you.
Support.
Okay, moved by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, the consent items have passed. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is ordinances. Our first ordinance is the enactment of ordinance number 1791. This is PZR 24-004. It's a request to rezone property on Greenfield Road from parking to general business.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we act ordinance number 1791.
Your support?
Support.
Okay, moved by Councilman Brightwell, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, that ordinance number 1791 be enacted. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion passed. Ordinance number B, enact ordinance number 1792. It's a zoning ordinance text amendment to permit administrative approval of fences up to 8 feet tall for uses that demonstrate the need for increased security measures.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move that we enact ordinance 1792.
Support.
thank you. Moved by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Hoag, that ordinance number 1792 be enacted. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. And the last ordinance that we have is ordinance number 1793, zoning ordinance text amendment to amend the zoning and planning chapter 45 of the Code of the City.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move that we enact ordinance number 1793.
thank you.
Support.
Thank you. Moved by Councilwoman Haynes, supported by Councilman Hicks, that ordinance number 1793 be enacted. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, Council. The next few items on the agenda are items for discussion and/or action. So the first item is a rezoning request, zoning ordinance text amendments to change permitted hours of operation of medical marijuana provisioning centers and adult use marijuana retailers. It's suggested that this be postponed to a date uncertain. Do we-
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so moved.
Do we have a support? Okay, no support.
Support. This is for item A, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I support that item.
Okay. So.
Is there a reason why we're postponing?
I believe because the petitioners are not the petitioners, but you had asked some questions and they weren't available tonight.
I'm fine. I don't have any questions.
I still have a motion just because the petitioners weren't here. And I did just have one question for them, but whatever the majority wants.
Well, we have a motion on the floor, moved by Councilwoman Hoag, supported by Councilman Brightwell, to postpone this item to a date uncertain. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So we have 1, 2, 4 in favor and 1 opposed.
No, you have 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 2 opposed.
Oh, 2 you opposed?
No.
No, to postpone.
Postpone.
No.
Okay. My apologies.
This is just to postpone.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion passed. Item B is authorization to amend awarded contract with OHM Advisors for professional design and engineering services for the south side of 9 Mile shared use pathway from Evergreen East to Southfield Road to address the expanded project work required for a federal TAP grant award.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is for the planning department. We were approved to enter a contract with OHM in April of 2023 to do, for the stretch from Evergreen to Southfield, to do, develop plans and construction plans for that stretch of 9 Mile to extend the 9 Mile pathway. Also to do some preliminary concept work and cost estimating on the Southfield to Northwestern crossing. Subsequently, and when that was scoped, it was based on all local funding. Well, subsequently, we got a TAP grant that'll cover 80% of the costs of putting that pathway in. But as federal funds come with additional requirements, we need a little bit, $14,000 adjustment to raise that contract from $136,000 to $150,000 to access those federal funds, which will cover 80% of the project, which is somewhere around $500,000, the actual grant amount we'll be getting. So that covers 80% of the actual construction costs. And some of the additional work, there's a programming application through MDOT. We have to do a State Historic Preservation Office application, National Environmental Protection Act application. There's additional grading permit requirements and additional coordination for the GI plan and for the utility review. We do have a representative of OHM if there are questions on additional, in more detail on those items. Just an overview of the 9 Mile pathway. If you look at the far left over there that says proposed 2024 TAP grant, that's the part that's currently under construction right now. The section that we're talking about is that lighter blue that says preliminary engineering 2023, whereas the other part crossing south of Northwestern is that darker blue. So if you look at, this was the contract scope when this was approved in 2023. So you've got the 2 red boxes there with the division where you hit the freeway. So this section is from Evergreen until you hit that Southfield Freeway Service Drive area. So we've got funding to build that through the TAP grant, but we need to do this little bit of additional work to access that funding. So it's a $14,000 additional spend to pick up $500,000 in federal funding. So we are looking for approval to make that adjustment. As I said, there is a representative of OHM here if you have any further questions. We do have a recommended resolution.
Council, are there any questions? Mr. Brightwell?
Yeah. Tom, in reading this, I ran across it. This sort of reminded me of things I've heard all my professional life. that whenever the federal government gets involved, they require additional scrutiny and/or additional, just additional work. Is this consistent with that philosophy, that way of doing things?
Yeah, every TAP grant, including the one that's building that other section of 9 Mile, we had to do this additional work. It's just part of federal grant funds. It's why you want to get the big bucket of money so you can afford to pay for this stuff. In addition, it makes worth getting that larger bucket of money. But these are consistent things the federal government's requiring for all of their funds that come down from the federal level. And the TAP grant is one of the big ones you can get to do these pathway systems. It's a big chunk of money. It covers 80% of the project. And the additional work is, it's a bit, but compared to the amount you can actually get from the grant, it's not unreasonable.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to spend money to get money, I guess, is kind of the take-home lesson.
Yeah, well, I mean, so is this the federal government way of ensuring that the dollars are spent appropriately and adequately and done how they should be spent?
Yeah, there's a bunch of federal regulations whereas the federal government spends money, whether they do it through the states or the local government, they have requirements they have to justify to Congress based on how those laws are written. And when it gets passed down to the state or the local level, we're required to provide that documentation to them so they can provide it to show they're spending the money correctly to Congress.
Okay, that's fine. Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councilwoman Hall?
No question. I was just going to move.
Okay.
Thank you. I move that we authorize an amendment to the OHM Advisor Services contract approved on April 17, 2023 for additional services, increasing the contract by $14,000.
Moved by Councilwoman Hoag, supported by Councilwoman, yeah, okay, you did, okay, Councilwoman Haynes, to approve the contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the awarded contract has been approved. The next item is the presentation and discussion regarding the proposal to construct a new Kroger fuel station at 19991 West 12 Mile.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. As noted, this is in the corner of 12 Mile and Evergreen Road. There's a vacant branch bank in that location in front of the Kroger grocery store. The present zoning of the property is B2 planned business. There's a proposed conditional rezoning to B3 general business, which is the zoning that allows gas stations as a special land use. Their hours of operation proposed to be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. They're looking to have a total number of 6 full-time equivalent positions. One max shift would be normally 1, 2 during shift change. So I get this to advance. Here we go. As showing the zoning here, that whole corner is all B2. The other 3 corners are B3. So this would not be considered spot zoning. Also, the site meets the 1 acre minimum. Future land use map shows local mixed use. The B3 is consistent with that. The current B2 zoning permits these uses: medical offices, banks, libraries, government buildings, post offices, private clubs, nursery schools, photographic and interior decorating studios, personal services, retail stores, and restaurants. Special land uses allowed in the B2 would be theaters, open air sale plant, lawn furniture, arcades, hotels and motels, restaurants with drive-throughs, or bar lounges are open 24 hours, and small box retail. The B3 adds a lot of uses, but the conditional rezoning being proposed actually limits them to just the gasoline station. They've struck out every other use. So their conditional rezoning is literally it becomes a one-use district on that property. They're willing to enter into a conditional rezoning agreement with the city that will limit them to the gasoline station use. In the future, if this property were to be redeveloped again, whoever wanted to do something other than a gas station would have to come back and modify the zoning through council, change the conditions through the rezoning process again. but it does take everything else off the table. It becomes a one-use district effectively, which that's the first time I've seen a conditional rezoning quite that specific. Normally, they leave a few uses on the property. This is site aerial. You can see the branch bank there in the corner. There's also a vacant branch bank to the north on the opposite corner across 12 Mile, and there's a vacant CVS next to it. This is some photos of the existing branch bank on the corner. This is the proposed site plan. So they've got a small kiosk, 5 pump islands, the tanks, you can kind of see at the north end there under the pavement, limited parking up in the corner for employees and the occasional visitor, I guess. Access is internal. There are no new curb cuts onto Evergreen or 12 Mile proposed, and landscape buffers on both sides, both roads that meet the minimum requirements of the ordinance. So landscape plans, they're showing shrubs and trees on the perimeter, and a landscape bed kind of facing also into the site, dividing up the traffic in and out. This is the floor plan for the small kiosk. As you can see, it's like 22.5 feet by about 8'10", very small building. It's really just kind of a counter with a window and then a restroom for the employee. These are elevations. If anyone's seen a Kroger gas fuel station, it's fairly standard. Side elevations. And a rendering, just to give you more of a 3D color look of what this would look like. This is basically Evergreen, kind of looking up north into the site. You can see the CVS kind of in the upper right back there. There was a traffic study done. The Planning Commission held this up for a couple months because they wanted some of the traffic issues, the circulation issues at the site addressed. So there was a traffic study done. It was provided in your packet. The recommendations of the study were to add, there were 7 key recommendations. Add yellow crosshatching adjacent to the curb along the storefronts to further emphasize that parking and standing is not permitted in addition to the signage that's there. One of the problems of the traffic flow along the front of the store and front of the Kroger is people are literally just stopping there and blocking the aisle. Upgrade the signage at the north driveway to Evergreen, which is one way in, to emphasize on both sides of that driveway, do not enter signs and wrong way signs on both sides. It looked like there was a second sign there at one point that got probably hit and was not replaced. It was the base of it there. Install a stop sign on the east side driveway, approach to 12 Mile. Once again, a missing sign. It looks like maybe that one got hit and was not replaced. Install some concrete bumpers along the grass area adjacent to the Tim Hortons, because there are people cutting across that lawn between this site and the Tim Hortons site at the back. That's causing some strange traffic patterns over there. Install pavement markers delineating all driveway inbound and outbound lanes and ensuring crosswalk markings are clearly visible, so more directional arrows and clearly marked crosswalks. And add one of those really wide, big, high visibility crosswalks in front of the Kroger entrance to make clear that's a pedestrian space. Add some additional pickup signage for the Kroger click list to make sure people are directed to the correct location for that. And install no right turns signs on the Kroger fuel station drive, so people won't hopefully be turning and immediately going out to Evergreen there where they're not supposed to exit. This is just a plan that kind of shows the various improvements noted on it. This was also in the packet, just an overview. And I know the petitioner does have representation here, if they would come forward.
Through the chair, as is his habit, Mr. Pizon's very thorough, so there's not a lot of surprises.
So could you give your name and address for the
Most
record?
certainly. It's Matthew Pisco, 37225 St. Martin's, Livonia, Michigan, representing the Kroger Company of Michigan. We started our journey here probably 5 years ago. We were here probably a year and a half ago to reintroduce the project once the bank parcel became available, and it presents a great opportunity for multiple reasons. Most importantly, it's within the parcel. So we don't have to have a separate parcel, which we're reluctant to do, but will if there's not property available. So we're going to redevelop a parcel that right now has a closed bank. So we'll demo the bank with your approval and then redevelop that existing site so that 30% of the traffic is already in our shopping center and will traverse to the gas station after grocery shopping. So, and upon, there's a couple recommendations and concerns about the internal traffic. Got the traffic study, and Mr. Pizon just enumerated what those corrections were. The bank was a more intense use than the proposed fuel station. We have 5 dispensers and a 198-square-foot kiosk where people can't enter. We have very limited sales, bubble gum, lottery, and customers can't access the kiosk. It's all through transactions, which is across the national enterprise. We have small kiosks. We have a big convenience store south of us at the grocery store. All of these are Kroger employees. It's a company-operated store, 6 full-time equivalent positions. We mirror the store hours like the deli or the coffee shop that's in there. This is a cash register that's tallied in the grocery store. So this can't run with the grocery store being closed. And with that, I will make myself available for any questions, comments, concerns, and do my level best to address them.
Thank you. Councilman Hicks, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Pizon, can you go back to restrictions? And maybe I'm being too literal in my interpretation, but with all the strikeouts and gas station remaining the sole option, as Mr. Pisco mentioned, if you were selling bubble gum, or would this prohibit them from doing that?
Gas stations are allowed to have accessory package retail sales as part of the description of the use.
Okay, thank you.
The transition from repair shop gas stations to convenience store gas stations kind of made that change in the code necessary.
Okay, thanks for the clarity.
Councilwoman Hoag?
Thank you. Mr. Planner, is the owner of the strip mall here?
Do not believe the owner is present.
Through the chair, I did not see Mr. Bino here.
He did meet with us with the traffic consultant to go over the recommendations for the corrections at the center and did commit to carrying through on those as part of the project.
I just wanted to voice my continued concern about the upkeep of that parking lot. That I would love to see commitment from the owner to redo that. The customers of those stores and businesses deserve to have decent and safe parking, because there's so many cracks throughout that parking lot, and the water, when it rains very hard, it piles up. I experienced it personally, up to your knees. And so with this, I would like to see commitment on their part to make these repairs as well.
Through the chair, if I can, one thing that did occur, that was a concern raised very early on in that there was flooding that occurred on the site. And in cooperation with the DPW, they did go and clear all the basins so that that flooding would stop. So that has been addressed, and we're subject to a maintenance agreement as we move forward. So we're going to have to address those issues and put intervals for inspection and ongoing maintenance with the landlord. So duly noted.
Okay, yeah, I brought it up before, so I'm glad to hear that the water issue may be corrected.
Yes.
I'm sure if the next time it rains, I'll try to come by there and see. But the repairs to the parking lot should be, completed as well. Thank you, that's all.
I can let the owner of the center know that he probably wants to have representation here at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brightwell?
It's probably in the material. How many dispensaries will be at this location?
Through the chair, there's 5 dispensers, 10 fueling positions.
Excuse me?
There's 5 dispensers, fuel dispensers.
Yeah.
That was the question. So it's by Kroger standards, it's a small offering, but it's appropriately sized for the parcel.
Okay. And you said there will be no curb cuts, no additional curb cuts?
No, that's the beauty of that parcel, is that it has internal curb cuts to promote internal traffic.
Right.
Which is, in Kroger's world, that's the perfect environment. You know, if people want to go there, they can come in through the parking lot. Most will be shopping, accumulating points, and then going to the fuel station.
Okay. Once, let's say if this is approved, what would be the length of time you would have disruption to place that fueling station there?
Through the chair, I would anticipate, one, we've got to get asbestos studies on the bank. We would have to raise the bank. So we would start that process as soon as we can bid and get contracts and get the site prepared, and then hit it hard in the spring so that we can get the tanks, because we don't want to get over our skis too much. Some of the items, the underground storage tanks are a long lead item. Ever since the pandemic, for whatever reason, manufacturing slowed down. So God willing, we get approved. We'll start with raising the bank and clearing that, maintaining the existing streetscape elements, and then in the spring, start excavation and installation. 120-day construction duration, so I would expect by early summer it would be open.
Okay, obviously, the point I'm getting at, just how long the customer would have to be delayed in using that store, the grocery store, because obviously they use that grocery store for a purpose, and it's down. You can't get to it. That defeats the purpose of having the grocery store there. So I'm just trying to get if this is approved, how long would the customers have to go without?
If I can clarify, I understand. There will be no interruptions to the grocery store operations. We're going to be to the northwest. Our work will be isolated to the bank parcel. And then at some point in time, we'll bore to the grocery store for communications. And even that will be in a vacuum between the fuel station and the grocery store. We won't be interrupting grocery ops at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Haynes?
Yes. I was reading a couple of the letters, and I know we're dealing specifically with the parking lot. A lot of the people are concerned about the upkeep and the store. A lot of the residents were saying that maybe there should be more investment in doing a better job at the store. That is a major concern. That store is not one of the better looking Krogers, if you will, even from what I'm hearing them say. And also myself, I have had to go to other Krogers. So while we're investing in a new gas station that is presentable for the residents, why isn't there a better job being done with the store to do the same thing?
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
I've done most of the retail fuel stations for Kroger over the last 10 years. One phenomena that has occurred over and over again, I can give you stores 8 Mile and Gill, 5 Mile and Merriman, in Monroe Township, is that these retail fuel facilities that are branded Kroger build such a loyalty between the grocery store and the fuel station because of the discounts as you shop, that they have brought reinvestment into the shopping center. 8 Mile and Gill was just, the small shops were removed. There was a big addition and the whole store was redone. Monroe, same thing. We actually tore the gas station down and moved it, raised some small shops on the end. They redid the shopping center. So as a function of the investment, there's a great deal of camaraderie between the fuel station, the grocery store, and improvements in the future. If there's questions about day-to-day operations, I have Caleb Stevens here that is in store ops that can speak to that. I'm really the retail petroleum guy, but I know, because we do all the plans and the entitlements, that these fuel stations proximate to the grocery store lead to reinvestment and overall health of the shopping center.
And I understand what you're saying, and I'm just saying that, and I know you do the gas part of this, and I understand what you're saying, but my thing is, I've had to go to other Krogers because I know what they supply. So if I go to other Krogers, then I probably won't go to the gas station. So what I'm saying is there's a difference in the Krogers, and there's a comfortability in different stores, and maybe that can be addressed because residents are talking about that. I mean, the store is, there's some need. When they came before, I put online something on Facebook, and they responded. This was years ago, but I didn't see a quite improvement. And I'll be honest with you, I'm comfortable sometimes at another store because of the condition of that store. And I'm seeing this in a lot of the letters that people are saying, and I think that, you know, if you're going to approve this gas station, people are still going to say, okay, well, you're not going to do anything about the store, and maybe that needs to be addressed too as well. You know, the gas station is a welcoming idea, but if the store is not something that you're comfortable with being in, I mean, just for myself, if I'm going somewhere else to the grocery store, I'm definitely not going to come back to the gas station. So, I mean, just like you say, that's, you know, to the community, and it is bringing things to the community, but we also want to bring a proper store. I'm not saying it's not proper, but just better condition, you know, better things. There's some things that are in that store that are not in that store that I have to go to other stores for, quite a few things. And I think that needs to be, you know, looked at. I go to the Livonia store because of the variety and the gas stations there. So if you don't have it and I have to go to that store, that's where I get the gas.
Do you go to 8 Mile and Gill? Is that the Livonia store?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my store. That's my home store. I shopped there for a long time when it was rough.
And, you know, we don't want to have to go out of Southfield. The residents are tired of going out of Southfield for things. It's just, we want standards too.
Perhaps before the next hearing, we can provide a list of what improvements have occurred and what are planned improvements for the future for the store that are known for facility planning. It's not something that I can speak to right now.
Thank you. I just wanted that to be heard, and I know you can't, but I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you. It would be nice if we could have the list by our next meeting, please. And to the deputy planner, the last time the fuel station was brought up on this property, again, at that time, they talked about the condition of the parking lot, the striping. Since this is the same owner, and if nothing has been done, is there a way a condition can be put on this? I'm not understanding why the parking lot is still flooding, why the parking lot is still a mess. And I think this was before us, was it 4 years ago? And nothing has been done since that time. I would actually like to know why nothing has been done. And also, I'd like to see a list of what they have done in the store, because I believe the last time we turned it down, one of the reasons was because the condition inside the store also was just terrible. And the owner at that time said that they were going to make major improvements, but it sounds like the major improvements have not been made.
I was
There was 1.6 million spent. Dan Brightwell and I were there. That was 5 years ago.
Okay. What about the parking lot?
I talked to Mr. Benno, who owns the property. He says he has staff out 6 days a week. He says that there's more litter, and he owns a number of Kroger shopping centers. Says there's more litter in Southfield than in any of his other locations.
Do we-
And so he has, normally he said 3 days a week, he has somebody out to clean the parking lot. He says in Southfield he has 6 days a week.
Well, do we have enough trash receptacles there? I mean, if there's garbage all over, is there a place for people to deposit their garbage?
There's trash cans at all the cart corrals, but to Mr. Mayor's point, in 2018, there was a substantial investment. Everything that we talked about occurring, the streetscape improvements, the fence elements, the landscaping that surrounds the shopping center, and all the improvements to the appearance of the shopping center, paving, pavement markings, were affected except for the fuel station. So we came back, now we're asking with the closed bank, a substantial sum of monies to raise a bank with a vault is going to be put forth to make that a buildable parcel that's part of that whole shopping center complex and has internal curb cuts and won't interfere with either Evergreen or 12 Mile.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoag?
I was just going to say, I understand that the owner may think that, that creates additional costs for him, but I'm sorry, trash on the ground doesn't equate to a torn up parking lot. One has nothing to do with the other. And I still will reiterate and say, if we show commitment to allow this, because that parking lot has been bad for so long, I want to see their commitment as well. I get it that there's trash, but there should also be something said about, unfortunately, people may be better when the environment is better, if that makes sense to what I'm trying to say. I, unfortunately, go to a different Kroger's, and it's just not the same there. Sure, there may have been $1 million upkeep, but the one on 8 Mile in whether that's Livonia or Farmington, I don't know, is much better than this one. So we just would like to see the same type commitment here as well. So I don't want to belabor it because it's a little outside of the gas station issue, but it's kind of like we show our commitment, let's show yours, from the owner as well as Kroger.
If I may, that's Kroger D615. That's my home store. I shopped at it when it was that pissant ugly square that was old, and it was very small. We put that fuel station in the corner. It sits off kind of cattywampus from the parking lot. We put that in 3 years later is when the reinvestment started because of the business that occurred between the fuel station and the grocery store. There is definitely a link for the health and investment in a grocery store having both those offerings. Because, getting up to $1 off from shopping for purchasing gasoline is substantial.
And maybe I'll just say it. I just hope that the type of customers that are at this location isn't the reason why we're not getting the same commitment from Kroger. So I'll just have to say it and leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilman Brightwell?
When they reopened that store, remodeled that store, I was there the day of, and it was night and day. And they had, obviously changed a little bit of everything. It became, and so if you feel that fueling traffic will allow Kroger to push Kroger to make additional improvements or I know they are, what would you call it, they're kind of landlocked based on spacing. I go to Kroger's and a lot of them are much bigger than the place there. So there is a correlation, and I'm just trying to get this in mind. There's a correlation to the improvement and/or expansion of a local based on the activity at the fueling station?
I don't want to get over my skis. I cannot speak for grocery store operations or commit to improvements in the store. I strictly handle fuel. My observation has been stores that are landlocked with small shops on both ends and have little room to expand, that have gotten fuel stations at some point in time in the future after that investment. It's over a $2 million investment into that parcel. It leads to improvements, real improvements in the grocery store. And I can say that's empirical. I've seen it. I've been a party to it. I'm the leading indicator. We put the fuel station in, and then several years later, that's when the reinvestment occurs, because there's an increase in store loyalty. You know, I mean, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. You don't have to accumulate your points at that grocery store. Kroger points are Kroger points. You could shop at a grocery store in Maine and use your points for a discount, whatever fuel station. So you're not obligated to shop at that store. We'd like you to, but you're not obligated to.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, council? Okay, this item will come back before this body next Monday for a public hearing on the conditional rezoning, special use request, and site plan review. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item is a presentation and discussion regarding the proposal to add alcohol sales to the existing gas station at 25826. Council, this item will also come back next Monday, August 26th, for a public hearing on a special use request and site plan review. Tonight, this is just for discussion purposes only.
Thank you,
Mr.
ma'am.
Payson?
As noted, this is another, since the code changed last year and allowed alcohol sales at gas stations, this is another one of the requests coming out of that change in the code. This is 25826 Southfield Road. It is on the southeast corner of Lincoln and Southfield. B3 zoning is already in place on this site, which is the correct zoning for a gas station. And they're looking at hours of operation Sunday through Wednesday, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. Number of employees are 5, max per shift would be 3. As you note here, the current zoning, B3, it's wrapped by some OS, office service, there's OS across the street, and then residential going to the east and to the south. It's just kind of a bigger picture, and we've been providing these with all these requests. The 4 stars you see down at the intersection there of 10 Mile and Southfield are the other places where alcohol is sold. You got the Sunoco gas station, which was approved close to the beginning of the year, I think January, February. The New Abbey Wine Shop, liquor store, the Yellow Star, the Red Star is the CVS, and the Green Star is the Dollar General, which is temporarily closed, but they actually finally applied for permits to rehab that from the fire damage, so that's probably going to be reopening in not too distant future. Just to kind of give where the nearby other alcohol licenses are at. Site aerial, just showing the existing station. They're not doing any additions. There's no carry-out restaurant proposed. They're just going to reconfigure the interior retail space to accommodate the beer and wine and out liquor. Pump island stand, there's some minor site improvements. I'll get into those. Here's some photos, existing conditions of the site. Got views from Southfield and from Lincoln, some close-up views of the building. I don't make them draw new elevation drawings typically because it's an existing building. This is the site plan. There are some minor modifications. They'll be freshening up the landscape a little, adding the bike racks, providing a pedestrian crossing there through the ADA hatched area to the door. Some minor site improvements that we've been seeing on all of these, where we just have them kind of update the things that they can update if they're not reconstructing. This is the floor plan. We did have them color code this. Planning Commission likes this way. It shows the purple, which is where their liquor is, which will be behind the counter, which is pretty standard. And then you've got the beer cooler over on the right there, and then a green area, which is more aisle space. Elevations that were provided. Store's not really changing its appearance. It's existing. These photos are ones provided by the petitioner and the architect, just showing like with the interior renovation, what they want it to look like. These aren't like actual photo renderings of the interior, but it's kind of the look they're going for. These were like their kind of inspiration photos on that. And I know the petitioner's architect is present. I believe the petitioner is present. If you could come forward and introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Andrew Atisha, the applicant representing 25826 Southfield Road.
Good evening. My name is Ken Moreland, 29895 Greenfield Road. I am with Dorchin Martin and Associates. We're the architects representing the applicant. As Mr. Payson had indicated, the existing facility, there's no proposed expansion of the footprint, and the exterior elevations will remain as they are. The interior will be renovated to accommodate the what is the applicant's vision of the interior, and improve it, refresh it, and then provide the new counter layout to provide the security for the liquor. And then the additional, like the beer will be in the coolers that are there. With that, I think that I will open it up to any questions, comments, or concerns you may have.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions?
I just have a quick one. Back to the rendering, Mr. Payson?
Yep.
Is that the, is that what it's gonna look like? Or was that just examples of what
Examples.
Because you don't have bushimis in there now.
I don't have bushimis in there now, no.
Okay. This is all potentially what it could look like.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
I believe these were like kind of inspirational photos for the look you were going for with the final design. This is the actual revised floor plan.
Okay.
There is not proposed to be a carryout restaurant. That would have been listed on the request
That's what
because
I
it's
was-
a
that's why
separate
I
special
asked.
land use.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the one side of using those photos, but it is what
No,
they-
but I just wanted to make clear. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're looking for a nice, clean, refreshed site on the interior.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, this is just a generic question. But I know this is part of, your industry is changing, and your model for existing is changing. But from a global standpoint, this is a financial analyst question. What has this done for your industry with respect to revenue coming in?
Well, I have another site out in Wixom, and I introduced this product line over there, and it substantially increased the business over there. And it led to us renovating a building, renovating the interior. And so, you know, the customers like it. They like to stop at one spot and get their items. For us, it's really just providing the ultimate convenience to the customer. And like you said, it's where the industry is going.
Yeah, and my question was pretty much trying to get to, quantifying that number, because I've heard good things about it. And it's a move that, obviously the industry is moving that way, so without getting into your financial stuff, you gave me enough info. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Payson, can we check to make sure that the property taxes and any both personal and real taxes have been paid. Usually with liquor licenses, we do double check, and I believe there's a report at the end of the year that, the city is also required to check to make sure everything is paid.
I did check on Thursday.
I'm sorry?
I checked on Thursday.
Yes.
And there were no outstanding tax or water bills on the property.
Yes, and water bills, thank you. And moving forward, can we include this in the presentations if there are anything to do with, like a liquor license, alcoholic beverages?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is there any further question, council? Okay, so this item will come back before council next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation and discussion regarding the proposed rezoning of 21246 8.5 Mile Road and the rear 91 feet of 21251 Midway from R1 Single Family to R2 Attached Single Family Residential. If council finds this proposal to be satisfactory this evening, this item will come back to council next Monday for a public hearing on the rezoning. Mr. Payson?
Yeah, as noted, this is a rezoning request. There's not presently a site plan with it, though they did provide a concept plan to kind of show proof that the rezoning could potentially work. The two parcels on 8.5 Mile are the principal site where they would like to do the duplexes. The parcel on Midway, the applicant got an agreement from that property owner to participate in the rezoning because they needed to get up to 1 acre minimum to avoid a spot zoning issue. And by adding that rear 91 feet of the other parcel to the rezoning request, with that property owner's permission, and I did explain to them how that might impact their use of the rear part of their property in some detail, it got into that 1 acre minimum. So it is a kind of an odd rezoning in that way that it includes part of this other parcel with that owner's agreement and with a separate application that was filed, notarized signature. So what we have is the current zoning is R1 residential, that whole neighborhood. And then the mid-block area, the future land use is moderate density single family. There's site aerial, not a lot you can see there because there are actually quite a few trees, pretty dense trees all in the backyards in that area. Some shots from 8.5 Mile here. As you can see, a lot of vegetation there. The house on the property, my understanding is in bad condition, is either, I think it has a demo permit on it already. This would be showing the rezoning request. You see the yellow is the present zoning, the R1. The right is sort of the after, or if approved, the RT. The RT zoning was what was used on the Habitat for Humanity duplexes over on Westland. So it allows a similar sort of setup. One of the notes interesting about the RT is to be able to do less than 3 unit buildings. If you do single family or 2 unit buildings, the site plan has to be approved by this body. That is not approvable even under the change to the site plan rules that was enacted. This would still have to come back to you. This is not one of the things that changed because it's an exception to that. It's like a subset of that standard zoning. This is the applicant's preferred configuration roughly without having done full engineering. 2 duplexes. This version would require some waivers because it only has the 20-foot side setbacks instead of the 30 that RT normally requires, so they could separate the middle driveways. The standard side setback in the R1 is actually 8 foot, so this is already like more than twice that. This is just an example floor plan and layout of the type of duplex the applicant is considering. Ranch style, side by side, about 1,000 square feet per unit. So about a 2,000 square foot total building. We did at the Planning Commission's request, do an analysis of how it would fit the code. As you can see, it's got the R1 requirements, then the RT requirements, and then the proposed. And the only waivers would be those side setbacks from 30 to 20, whereas in the R1, you're only actually required to have 8. But the minimum unit sizes, you could do, 9,000 a square foot, 36,000 square foot lots. This you end up with a couple more units. This is actually a version that they could do that would be compliant. They just move things in and put those 2 middle driveways side by side. don't know if everyone's lived in a side-by-side driveway. I have. It's okay if you get along with your neighbor. But this one actually would meet the ordinance requirement, would not require the zoning waiver. So that's also possible. I know the petitioner is present if they'd like to come forward.
Good evening. Max Neuser, residing at 21300 Wallace Drive here in Southfield.
And Rebecca Montgomery, 21300 Wallace Drive, also in Southfield.
I don't have a great deal to add. Thomas is very well spoken and knowledgeable on the matter. We've been dealing with this for a couple of months. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoag?
This one?
Yeah, can you explain how we can and why we're going to encroach on that parcel, just, I don't know if that's half or?
It's the rear, I think it's the rear 91 feet.
So the other two are kind of like?
Yeah, that's the property the applicant actually owns, or the two properties on 8.5 Mile. The one on Midway, that property owner actually agreed, Mr. User actually talked to them, got them to agree to participate in the rezoning, so they filed an application, separate application, with their notarized signature, because I wanted that owner, obviously, permission to proceed. And I talked to that owner, and I explained that like the 8-foot setback that would normally apply to the R1 would become a 30-foot setback and would eliminate him building much of anything in that rear part of his yard. And he was completely unconcerned about that. Like, I went over it with him in detail because I thought that'd be a deal killer, right? Like, oh, I can't build anything in my backyard. He already has like a garage and a shed, so he's not concerned. Yeah. Nothing. I mean, it's just going to become a split zone parcel. We've seen a bunch of properties recently that are like B3 and P or industrial and P parking. A property doesn't have to have one zoning district on it. It really wouldn't affect his existing rights on, with the home and the other items that are in the R portion of the lot. It would only affect if you wanted to build anything new in that back part of the lot.
So this is just for future purposes for that?
It was to get that 1 acre minimum so this wouldn't be a spot zone, because without that piece, they didn't make the minimum to avoid it being spot zoning, which is illegal under state law. So this was like the only way to make that happen short of acquiring an entire third lot. So it's a legally legitimate workaround for the spot zoning problem. It is a little strange. I haven't personally encountered this particular style of getting around that problem in my professional life, but it doesn't appear to violate any laws.
To be fair, this is my first time doing this, and I don't fully understand why either. I'm just trying to follow the rules.
But you're going to occupy the 8.5 miles?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
Council, any other questions? I have one question. Are there basements to these units? Can we go back, no? Can we go back to the picture?
No, we actually live in the neighborhood, and we're well aware of the water issues. So no, there will be no basements. That's actually intentionally why we're putting it up on crawl. It's consistent with what's in the area, but it was also done for a reason. The entire subsoil in that area is not very well draining heavy clay. So I did investigate whether it was worth maybe putting some basements in, but just from an engineering feasibility and cost standpoint, it didn't make any sense.
Okay. And you said each one of the one unit, which is also 2 units, is 5,000 square feet, so each unit will be 2,500 square, 25, no.
No, the entire construction is approximately 2,000 square feet. Each subdivided unit is a little bit more than 1,000 square feet. Yeah.
So each duplex will be approximately 2,000 square feet, 1,000 square foot per unit. 2 duplexes means about 4,000 square foot total building.
Okay. And did I hear you say you're going to live in one of these?
No, we already live in the neighborhood.
In the
I
neighborhood.
live about a half mile north of it. No, we're not going to be living in these.
Okay. And then will you be renting the duplexes or selling the duplexes?
They will eventually go up for sale. We would have to see what the economics look like when we get finished with the project, if we're greenlit to do so. Renting may be optional. Selling them is definitely on the table. We're going to need capital to do the next projects after we do this one. So, but sale is definitely being considered. We're going to need to raise quite a bit of fund for the next couple of projects. So.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor?
First of all, an observation. In the city, we have neighborhoods with very deep backyards. My observation is a lot of people don't use them. Some of them go to wood, just brambles or trees, whatever. But given that, why aren't you doing garages? We really encourage people to put their car in a garage at night, as well as having yard tools, places to store everything from lawnmower, snow blower, gardening tools. Otherwise, we tend to see properties with an accumulation of stuff in the yard, which is not a good look. I think for the homeowners, it would be a benefit to them to have a secure place to put their automobile. And you certainly have the room on the property to construct, at minimum, a two-car garage, if not a four-car.
So we would prefer to add a garage if, can you go back to the floor plan? I'm sorry. So it's difficult with the floor plan we used as an example when talking with the Planning Commission. We can't exactly show that in an easy way without knowing if we can get a side variance. You'd have to tuck the garage behind, and attaching one, at least with this floor plan, is very challenging. You'd eliminate windows, access, fire safety, and things like that. So it's something we would like to add. We have a garage, we love our garage. It's just without knowing if we're going to get the rezoning and then exactly how we're allowed to use the space.
All right, so you haven't applied for a ZBA waiver, a zoning board of appeals waiver?
The zoning board waiver for the setbacks, no, they have not applied. They're just testing them to see to get the rezoning. If they get the rezoning,
Yes.
then they'll have to do a site
This
plan.
is just the zoning.
All right,
Come back to this body, and then if this body were to approve the site plan requiring the waivers, then they would also have to go to the zoning board. So this is like step one. If the
Okay.
rezoning doesn't happen, then none of those other steps occur.
Oh, yeah, I misspoke, I shouldn't have said that. Are you thinking about applying for, say this goes forward, applying for a waiver from the zoning board?
Yes, because we would prefer to do the 20-foot setbacks as opposed to the required 30. We think it will help space with the other houses better, because
Yeah.
otherwise you'd have these large gaps between the standard single detached homes and then the attached single-family homes we would like to add. So we wanted to make them look as much like they are supposed to be there as possible. So a 30-foot setback is going to look quite odd, with the other homes having an 8 to 12-foot setback in between each of those along the whole street. So we would intend to come back for that 20-foot variance. We just don't like to assume we're going to get it because we do have to ask.
All right, I appreciate that. I think the product looks good, what you're proposing. But again, I would strongly urge you, if this goes forward with council, that you do the garages. We just have too much stuff stored in yards where people don't have garages.
So,
And even where we do, and they got too much stuff in the garage, but that's another subject.
So to help to address the storage concern, you notice that there are clear span trusses that are going to be going across the construction. There will be loft space that is up in the attic ceiling area that they can access. There will be significant storage up there. Now, you are correct, there is no vehicle parking, but we are also trying to balance the economics of this project, right? We could extend from the rear and add garages. That would be one way to do it. But we are also trying to keep in mind the cost of selling these units and keeping them at a reasonable price. Those would certainly be upgrades that we could advertise to future owners, right? Here's your starter home, and it has room for expansion. You could pull off the back and add garages, right? It's not just you buy it and it's done. You could add to it and make it your own.
Again, I can appreciate what you're saying, especially with the cost of construction.
Yeah.
However, some of these, the people that are going to buy or initially rent, they're going to have 2 cars, more than likely.
Okay.
You're not going to put a bicycle or a grill in the loft. This is real life, the kind of stuff people have in a home. As far as I'm concerned, you got to build garages. You got to proceed with that, but it's not my decision.
Thank you. Can you go back to the slide that shows if each unit has 2 cars, where will they be parking?
In the
Yeah,
driveway.
the driveway's shown on this. So each unit has a driveway. The driveway is 55 feet deep and 12 feet wide, so you can stack 2 cars up in the driveway. And in residential, driveways count as parking. So this kind attached, single-family attached, and the garage and the driveway. So you need a 20-foot to park a car. They've got 50 feet in that, 55 feet shown in these 4 driveways, one for each unit.
Trust me, I love garages. I built a 1,500 square foot garage for myself. So we would love to do more. It's just, we're trying to balance a lot of factors.
Thank you. Councilman Hicks?
Yeah, just a general question on the partial rezoning of the other owner. So what happens if that owner sells their home?
The rezoning runs with the land. It's irregardless of ownership. So it stays zoned like that until someone comes back to you to rezone it.
That was part of the question. And so the other part is, what has to be disclosed to the potential home purchaser?
Anybody running title work on a house should come up with the zoning classifications and its, building inspection and get a certificate of occupancy inspection for the house. So it's part of your diligence period, looking for encroachments, easements, and any potential zoning issues on a property. So if someone's checking the property, they'll come up with the split zoning as one of the issues, just like you would if you found an encroachment or an easement on the property.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And it may cause a bank who's looking to finance a future purchase of the house to go, why is the back of this lot zoned a different thing? But as long as the actual house, which is most of the value, is still considered conforming, it probably won't cause too much trouble on a finance deal. It would, if the house is non-conforming and if it burned down and couldn't be rebuilt, that causes the bank some heartburn.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Brightwell?
Mr. Planner, do you know, I'm all for, improving the housing stock in the city of Southfield. And we have pretty much indicated to individuals, you can find practically anything that you want in the city of Southfield. Can you tell me, do we know how many duplexes this type building structure is in Southfield?
These are very similar to the Habitat duplexes that were built over on Westland. So we do have some duplexes of this type that are relatively, we have some, the Habitat for Humanity duplexes that were built on Westland Street are very similar to what's being proposed here.
Okay,
There's currently a single duplex that already exists that's been completed on Westland, and there are 3 more being constructed by Habitat currently. So there's only one existing duplex in Southfield. It made the news.
One existing what?
There's one existing duplex
Okay.
in Southfield.
So am I interpreting there's only one duplex in the city of Southfield? Oh, that's,
They're building 3 more,
okay.
are under construction down, like about a quarter of a mile down the street.
Yeah, they're adjacent to one another. They were all rezoned together, but constructed as separate projects.
Okay, all right, well, that's still within my statement that we have told individuals you can find all kind of housing stock in Southfield. So we are adding to the housing stock.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well,
We're
appreciate it.
Going up in density.
Yeah, I got you, no problem, thank you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Haynes?
Did I hear you say that you're possibly, if you get this, will possibly build a garage, or you don't know, or is it a financial thing, or?
At the moment, yeah, that's mostly why I have the very simple construction, is just trying to keep a reasonable cost to the project while keeping the ability to add garages to it. We could certainly add it. It's just going to cause a more expensive home price. Maybe markets get better and the value supports it, but that's primarily the reason for the simple construction, is just to keep it at an affordable cost so that it can be sold to people who are trying to buy a home.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm not a real estate agent, but most people, when they're attracted to a home, it's usually because they're the things that they need, and a garage is a huge thing, especially considering the fact that with the weather conditions that we have here, and also in a sort of a standard way, you have to cut grass, you have to do these things. So, the question becomes, okay, they're going to either try to get a shed built or get a permit for a shed, and that's something that they have to do. So, and then you don't know if you're renting or if you're going to sell the house. So, I think that needs to be really looked at seriously about the garage. I mean, I understand the finance part of it, but
Yes.
that's an attraction and also almost a necessity to some point.
Yeah, I agree, to be honest.
And, and even being fair to the other residents that have homes in that area, for appeal sake too as well.
I actually agree with you. I would have liked to have done more. It's the setback requirements are challenging to work with. They're much larger setbacks than the rest of the R1 zoning requires that's around it. So there's 30 feet all the way around the property that I'm not even allowed to use without this zoning variation or variance, what is it? That being said, one question I have is if I'm applying for a variance, how low could we get the setbacks? Can we go down to like R1 setbacks and get more creative with the space? Because then I could add garages much more easily in a more cost-effective manner. Right now, I'd have to either pull long or go to a second floor, which that changes quite a bit. If I could get wider on a single story, it would actually be a lot easier to add it.
It needs to be looked
So I haven't gone through this variance process, so I'm not sure what I can get away with.
I think it needs to be
Yeah,
some more investigation.
because right now it's just, we're going through zoning.
Yeah, I think they need.
Through the chair, I can comment on that at least briefly. I don't want to get too into the technicality of it. You can ask for whatever waiver you want. The zoning board is supposed to grant the minimum waiver necessary to meet the legitimate practical difficulty. So it's a balancing test. The fact that the site plan would have to be approved by this body first, if it was going to the zoning board with an approved plan that this body approved, an approved site plan, that does help their case because that you as the policymaking body will have said, we think this plan is appropriate. I wouldn't try to go less than what's required in the R1. I would give as much more of that you can to meet this legitimate need, and I think your argument would be that you're doing you're not doing 3 units or more per building, and you're perhaps providing a garage, which is a need for a unit to have. And maybe if what's in that setback is just the garage, that might even be more of an argument in favor that the house is further away, this is just the garage.
Right.
So it's a case to be made to the zoning board, but also first the plan would have to be approved by this body before you go to them anyway. So, and having done this here and in other communities in the past, your waiver body doesn't contradict your council very often. That's not something you see. I think in my entire career, I've seen it happen 3 times. And it was all under very unusual circumstances when it occurred. Your planning commission, your zoning board respect the elected body as their appointing body and the policy-making body. They tend to defer to you.
Yeah, especially if it's very much desired that garages be added. I would take that under serious advisement if that's going to be part of the requirement to get this through.
Thank you. Counselor, are there any more questions? Thank you. This item will be brought back to us next week for a public hearing on the rezoning.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
The next item is a presentation and discussion regarding a proposal to renovate the vacant office building at 19111 West 10 Mile for reuse as commercial space on the ground floor along 10 Mile and apartments on the second and third floors.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The site plan review for this is, actually, site plan review and it's actually a rezoning. This is mistitled. I have to fix this slide. This is a MUCD. It's one of our plan unit development overlay districts, like the ODD we used for Northland, the RUDDs we used for John Grace and Wellsprings. This is a mixed-use corridor district. It's another flexible tool that was created targeting certain areas that needed redevelopment. This office building on 10 Miles has been vacant for a number of years. It's gotten into some level of disrepair. Its current zoning is OS. They're looking to actually come back with a mixed-use renovation of the building. The front of the building on 10 Mile, first floor would be commercial. The upper floors would be apartments. As you can see, the current zoning is OS, but it is in this overlay area that qualifies it for this mixed-use corridor tool. Its master plan designation is local mixed use, so the commercial multifamily fits in that category nicely. Just close in on the aerial photo of the site, and they've got a kind of existing layout, even though the striping hasn't been redone in a while, but that's more or less what's there now. Existing photos of the building on 10 Mile. It's immediate. Usually you see this photo and you're like, oh, I know that building. Yeah. Some more photos of the building. Now this is the proposed site plan. The building footprint and the frames all going to remain. They're going to put a little plaza out front to provide access and outdoor seating for those commercial spaces in the front. The parking under the building is going to stay, and then they're going to have the 2 parking fields down the back. They're going to redo the front landscaping and upscale that a fair bit. Get into a little more detail here. This is the landscape plan, so you can see the landscaping along the front, there's some landscaping in the parking lot, and then one of the things they're doing is they're kind of opening up the interior of that building. I'm gonna go back here a little bit. You see that kind of hatched blue area in the middle? That's part of the building they're opening up. That's all solid roof now, but to provide windows on the apartment units, they're actually gonna open up like a courtyard that goes through the building. So then you get this landscape area kind of as you approach into the common spaces, which are in that core of the apartments being around the perimeter. So this is your first floor plan. You can see the 4 retail spaces up on the north, the top there. Those are facing 10 Mile. You've got this interior area where you're accessing your units. There's a fitness room, office mechanical room, and a little lounge area, and a mail room, staircase, and skylight's going to still remain. That's in the building. It's going to go through, so it'll be daylighting into the middle of that area. This is the second floor. So the perimeter, these color-coded are different size apartments with different bedroom types. And then you've got some more core space in the middle. You got a laundry, a sort of a shared party room, and a lounge area. Third floor, similar layout. You have the apartments around the perimeter. In the interior, you've got another laundry room, some smaller club party rooms, and some more lounge spaces like common area. These are elevations of the building, and we've got some color renderings that show it a little better. This is with a new skin put on the building because the existing skin of the building is in pretty rough conditions, as you saw in the photos. This is actually a rendering from 10 Mile, looking to the front with a commercial space with the plaza. They're looking to put this new kind of more artistic skin on the building. This is that plaza from the other end. Now this shows the area under the building where the parking is and where you access the core of the building to get up to the apartments. This is actually just showing some of the passages around to the apartments and the covered walkways that go out to the apartments from the core. Up on one of those walkways. Showing that core building And there is a rooftop patio planned in that core building in the middle. This is actually a rendering of the potential for that core building with that skylight that was discussed that goes through the middle of the core. Then it's got a, like a sort of a 5-foot screening fence around it, obviously for safety, but also for appearance, creating more of another like usable outdoor space for the residents. It's just a rendering kind of looking over the top of that screening wall, kind of, you can see that this is toward the south, toward the, where the residential neighborhood is. You can kind of see the tops of the houses over there, but it's, because this is in the middle of the building, the sight lines are really not into people's yards from up there. And then you do have the petitioner present, if they would come forward.
Hi, my name is Jessica Rieger. I am representing JSN Architecture at 3856 12 Mile in Berkeley.
I'm Maurice Charbonneau. I'm also representing JSN Architecture, same address, 3856 West 12 Mile Road in Berkeley, Michigan. And so if you have any questions or any discussions, I'd like to turn it over to you for that.
I want to start. We want to give this building a new face. It desperately needs it. It's been vacant for as long as I've been alive, which is crazy. And we're pretty excited. We know that it's going to be a major uplift. We are taking the center of the building out. It brings air and light. And we want to do this for those purposes. We want to give whoever is here access to outside as much as possible. We also have been in discussions with the residents to the rear of the building and are talking about putting more screening in because we don't want our residents to look into other residents and vice versa. So those conversations have also been started. But other than that, I think that's a good introduction.
Councilwoman Hoag.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you. When our planner asked, or did we recognize the building, it wasn't because of a good thing. But so I'm glad to see this project coming to us because I think it certainly is needed and on such a visible street. I think the idea of this is great if we can make it work. My question is, once everything, if it gets approved and it goes to everything, what's your timeline from moving forward? Like how long would it take to reconstruct this or renovate? It says renovate.
Of course. So we are currently talking to the owner and we're talking to construction or contractor and his demo team and everything. They've all seen the building. If this gets approved, we want to go immediately for a demo plan because there's a lot that needs to be opened up and seen. But the contractor said he can do this in a year.
So you said demo, but it stated here renovate. So it's going to be a kind of a mixture of both.
Yeah, my understanding is they're going to take it down to pretty much the frame. Like the foundation and the steel are all staying, but like the walls and the plumbing and the mechanical and electrical, all that's got to come out and be redone.
And when I always drive by that building and looking at how it's structured, I always just question, can that withstand today's world, you know, the heaviness and everything, and that scares me. But anyway, I'm sure engineers, they figure it out. But, and I'm not sure if we have, if we do, I apologize. When we talk about the residential pieces to it, what are we talking? One bedroom, studios, what's the largest number of bedrooms that would be up there?
Sorry.
I missed it if you sent it to us.
Yes, the largest is a 3-bedroom with 2 bathrooms. The smallest is a studio, but it varies. Most of them are 2-bedroom, but there is 3-bedroom apartments.
And my last question, obviously I think the planning committee would have to have gone through this, but in looking at what we see here and when we talk about retail at the bottom, do we have enough parking to handle all of this?
Yeah, we ran the parking analysis on the data sheet here. The requirement based on the plans they provided, is for 71 parking spaces, and they're currently proposing 103. So they're actually over-parked still with this plan.
And how many residential units we're talking?
Let's see.
Per floor? How many per floor?
Per floor is 17 units, in total 34 units.
34. And you said you talked to the neighbors south of the property.
Yes, we have. Yeah, we have talked to, in our last few meetings, we've had a resident show up and show concern about views. And we have talked to them and said, we're 100% going to help with screening, because that is a big issue.
That was
at
their
the
only
back.
concern, not the additional
There was
footprint
there was
there?
concerns about noise and the activity, but we got to remember that it's an apartment. Apartments have quiet hours, and they have rules that they function under because you're living so close together. So those should be minimized by this, because the resident had mentioned loud music and parties underneath the building, and with this, we're gonna push all of that crazy out of this area or this site.
Through the chair, the resident in question is the one home behind that doesn't have trees behind the back there. Like, you kind of see it, this wedge-shaped one kind of in the middle here. And there was some talk about, because there is a wall, potentially raising that wall some and then adding some planting on their side of the wall, because there were probably trees there before, but they're gone. Her biggest, actually, she wanted people looking down into her yard, but she said, like, right now it's bad because it's an abandoned building. There's like dumping going on there. There's stuff going on in the middle of the night. She has to call the police regularly to go over there and chase the people out who are loitering behind the building and doing bad things. So, it was like a balancing. She didn't want people looking into her backyard, so she wanted some screening, but she also would like to see the building renovated and occupied so that it isn't attracting criminal activity.
And my last question, what's the average square footage of the residential pieces?
So they vary. We have an average of 1,500 square feet for apartments. They do, in the smaller apartments, they do go down to 700 square feet for the
studio, okay.
studios.
All right, that's all.
Yeah.
Council, are there any other questions?
Yeah, there's a small studio that's 593, and then the 3 bedrooms are as big as, it looks like, 1,900 square feet. So they range, there's a couple of small studios, some large studios, some 1 bedroom, some 2 bedroom, and some 3 bedrooms. So it's a nice mix of housing types.
Councilwoman Haynes?
What about the lighting? I see I guess this is a tall, what are you doing about the lighting for the area?
Sorry, the lighting for the site, or?
Well, I see the tall light here. Is there like smaller lights, or, because it seems like there's only like lights on 4 corners?
There is, sorry, I'm trying to find them on the site plan. There are street lights in the 2 rows of vegetation in the parking, and then around the edges of the site.
And that's all of that?
Any further questions? Councilwoman Haynes?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
No, okay. Council, any other questions? Okay, thank you. This item will be coming back to us next week for a public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the council portion of our agenda. The next,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I move that we approve the travel expense report for President Michael Mandelbaum.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilman Hicks, supported by Councilwoman Haynes, to approve the travel expense report of Michael Ari Mandelbaum for the Detroit Regional Chamber Mackinac Policy Conference held May 28th through the 31st, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Okay, so moving along with council. Councilman Brightwell, you have anything to add tonight?
No, I don't have too much, other than the all veterans, the Oakland House of Oakland, Care House of Oakland County is offering a nurturing parenting program on September the 26th to all veterans. And this is for, if you're a parent, you're a foster parent, a grandparent, or guardian, or caregiver. For kids, if you deal with kids who are between the ages of 4 and 12, this is kind of like a parenting program for you, and it's open to veterans. But you have to register by the, excuse me one second. I lost my page here. You have to register with it. Well, anyway, 947. The number is 947-332-7846 to register for this program. It runs through September 26th through January 16th. It's more like a parenting program, and this is quite beneficial. And I hate to call on my prior experiences, but as the president of the Cass Tech PTA for several years when my son was there, we would have parenting classes, and parents would come out. Those would be the most, we would have the largest turnout to the PTA meeting at Cass Tech, because parents wanted to know how to parent. You would think that, and I hate to obviously say what I've done, but I have lived a few years. I have done a few things, and parents, you would think the parents of the kids there were excellent parents. Then you have some very smart kids there. You think they're excellent parents, but the parents showed up as the biggest piece, and they wanted to know how best to parent. And we had experts in, and they gave out tips to parenting. And whenever we offer that, we had a room full of parents there. So this is an opportunity for, if you're a veteran and you are doing your guardian, your foster parent, or your caregiver, please call that number to register. I'm looking for the date. It's between the ages of 5 and 12. You have to register, and I hate to be taking up time here, but it's the date. It starts September the 26th, so call that number, and there's a deadline. The deadline, I can't find it in my papers here. I'll give that number one more time, 232-7846. Or feel free to give me a call at 248-796-5150, and I can obviously relay the information to you directly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Haynes?
Yes. This Wednesday at the Southfield Public Library in the back, the Friends will be hosting Jazz and Blues. And it begins at 6 o'clock, so bring your chair and be prepared to listen to some great music. That's this Wednesday, and I know that there's Parks and Rec has a senior day going on, so if you want to just kind of stop over to one and go to the other, because I'm going to do the same thing, and just get some good music and also get some resources too at the Senior Day Expo. I wanted to quickly address the communications part. I was a little disappointed that we could not say anything because by the time we get to say something, most of the people are gone. And so I know sometimes people do not watch the broadcast again, but we are just as concerned as you all are about the deer, especially. And you know, we are. I have flowers myself. I have at least a minimum of 7 to 8 deer in my yard per day, and every morning I have turkeys. I just had a video of like 10 turkeys in my yard. So the more land you have, the more they seem to take over. But there is a need for something to happen, and personally, I am in favor of really taking some action because, you know, when you invest in a lot of money in your plants and do those type things to keep your yard up, you don't want the deer to come and do that. I have every single product on the market to keep them out, and I kid you not, I wake up every morning just to look out the window to see if my flowers are still there. And I have done so many things, so I feel you on that, and no, I don't think that everybody regards the deer as Bambi, even though I did hear at one point some lady come before us. I wasn't on the council then, and she said that the deer they have lawyers. I'm just going to be quiet on that part because if I was speaking as a resident, I would say something else, but I'm just going to be nice about that. I'm not too happy. I have bucks in my yard, and the police have even had to come out and shoot a buck that tried to jump a fence and was stuck in the fence. And, you know, I feel the same way about the tick and Lyme disease. I have grandbaby. I don't want them running around my yard. And, I mean, I have to scare them out from grazing. So something needs to be done instead of just having discussion and conversation. And I don't eat deer, but I'll shoot them in a minute. Okay, the group homes, I think the residents need to contact their state legislature and even go to these coffees and get together because just like you all come to us and talk to us, something needs to be done about this. It's not fair to homeowners, and I think coming to us is great, but if there's not much we can do, I think there's volume, power, and numbers, and find out what really can be done. I mean, demand some answers and some changes. And I think part of that is also the residents doing that through the state as well. If it's out of our hands, it's not a lot that we can do, but I think there's power in numbers when people stand together. And speaking of fine restaurants, I beg to differ. We do have some nice restaurants here in this area, and I will name some of them. Nicola's, Cornbread, Fuddruckers will be getting a new place. We do have some places. No, they're not like the other places, but within their own right, they are good places to go. So Southfield does have some of those good restaurants here. And yes, we would like more, but also I think the facts need to be known that these restaurants look at demographics. They look at a lot of things, and we have to consider a lot of those things when we have to think about that when they want to come here and ask them. You go to some of these business people and ask them why they aren't coming here. I mean, they can tell you more than we can, and some of them are still trying to come here. We have to embrace them in a different way. You know, I remember when Cornbread first came, the first thing he said was he was concerned about tips. And I remember it was Beans and Cornbread did. He added the tip onto the bill because he was concerned. But as people started coming and understanding what the importance of tipping people is, he took it off, and people are catering to his business, and he is very successful. So we have to support a lot of these places that we already have here. And like I said, in their own right, I will stand up and say that there are some good places here. And we may not be all the type of dining that you want, and you know, at least just try to support at least what we have here. And the lady talked about the 10-mile traffic. There's a lot of problems with the traffic on 10 Mile. I have a hard time getting out of my street. I have to almost just sit at the stop sign and drive through and demand to be let in. And so that is a problem. My daughter had a crash right there at 10 Mile. There are lots of crashes. And with this increase, not just in construction, but whatever's going on, 10 Mile is backed up. I mean, it's really backed up, and there are times you can't even get out. And most of the time, you're having to make a left turn and it's very, very difficult, and it is very unsafe. I had just had a problem getting here today, through here. There was a Pepsi truck blocking my way, and I couldn't go around the truck, and by the time I could go around, the light changed 3 or 4 times. So there's a problem, and I think that needs to be addressed. And I just wanted to say, I hate that we can not say some of these things while the people are here, but I hope they know and understand that we are residents here, we care, we are concerned, and we are not ignoring them. And I would like for there to be some way where that does not happen, where if something falls through the crack, if a person has an issue, where we can get a list and get a follow-up and find out what's going on, because I would hate to be on the other end for something to be so long and not happen, and it just say, oh, well, it fell through the cracks. That is not acceptable to me. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Hicks?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder that next Monday, August 26th, school's back in session. So with all the traffic around, and please be aware of buses as well as children walking through your subs. I would also like to have the council to consider potentially having, at whatever cadence you desire, the student board reps from the district to come share with you things that are happening within their respective high schools and or the district. Finally, we had a fiscal year in last June. Is there a way that we can get an update as to where we landed from an adopted amended budget perspective versus expenditures as of June 30th? And what will be done with any finances that were not utilized against the adopted budget or amended budget?
I believe much of what you just asked for would be in the monthly finance report, so I'll make sure of that. But we typically get those variances in the annual audit, but I'll speak with the finance team and just see if we can start making that delineation sooner. Obviously, there are a lot of adjustments that go on between now and the preparation of the audit, but I'll start that and we'll talk to Finance Director Michaels regarding that request.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Hoke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To your suggestion about the student reps, I think whatever cadence you want suggested, and I think that's a great idea. So don't wait for us to give you the cadence. You do it. I think that's a great idea. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on what Councilwoman Haynes indicated about senior night. I just wanted to remind the residents that it's going to be live entertainment, dinner, and it's free from 6 to 8. I want to go back and thank the clerk's office and the election workers. I'm sure she's going to talk about it more, but we had a great election for the primaries, so thank you for your work and the staff there. The Kimmy Horn concert was fabulous. It was great. I was honored to be there. I'd like to give kudos not only to the artist, Kim Horn herself and her guests, but to the vendors, but also, and more importantly, just to how Southfield showed out. To the mayor's office, we thank you, your staff, to Parks and Rec, always do a great job, to our police and fire. Both the chiefs were here each day, all day, I think. They brought their families. We, the council, we were there as well. It was a good time to be had by all. And again, just want to thank everybody involved. And if I forgot anybody, charge it to my head, not my heart. And then last week, as I'm trying to immerse myself more and more within the arts community, last Thursday, we did an unveiling of the art that's out there. Again, I was glad to be there to just hear the stories behind the artists and why they do what they do, but just to get an appreciation for their work. So every time, it's done quarterly. I encourage everybody to come out to hear the stories behind the beautiful art that's out there. And so I also wanted to thank the Arts Commission, is that right? Southfield Public Arts Commission. I want to make sure I give them the right kudos. But then also for people to understand that arts, it's not free, and this isn't coming out of the general fund or anything, but just to kind of really see how art is supported in the community. And it's not just to give you a beautiful piece of art at the end, but some people just talk about how it just helps them mentally. So we had residents talk about the mental challenges in the community, but art is just another way to help that. So I was glad to be a part of it, to be here, to thank all of those involved, again, the mayor and his office, folks who are on the Arts Commission, Councilwoman Haynes, her portion in it. They do a lot of hard work. It's not easy, and I just thank you all for doing that. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of the items I wanted to say have already been said, so I will move on to the mayor.
Well, Councilwoman Hoag said everything I was going to say. We had a great concert. Weather was very cooperative both Friday and Saturday nights. The nice thing is that everybody gets along. There were no incidents other than somebody lost a wallet, somebody lost a phone, they dropped it somewhere. And you have all those couple thousand people here, and it's just a beautiful occasion. And once again, as Councilwoman Hoag has said, I have to give real kudos particularly to Dolores Flagg, Chair of the Art Commission, as she heads this up with Priscilla Pfeiffer and Yvonne Malinsky, our quarterly art exhibits. They will be out here through the end of October. So if you didn't make the opening, again, there's plenty of opportunity to see our quarterly art exhibit that promotes art, but also promotes local artists. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Zorn?
I have no comments this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To our city attorney?
Yes, good evening. I have nothing further to add either. Thanks.
Thank you. And our city clerk?
Well. What an exciting election season thus far. And our August primary was very busy, a very busy season, but compared to nothing that's forthcoming in November. What I'd like to say is the changes in the presidential race in November caused a lot of extra inquiries to our office because the voting public just kind of had to reconfirm that the primary does not entail the presidential election. And so we had a lot of calls about that. We had 24% turnout in our primary, as well as over 14,000 absentee ballots sent out to our voters. Over 700 plus voters came in for the week of early voting. That doesn't sound like much, but it is an increase because early voting in Michigan is quite a new phenomenon. And hopefully for November that it really picks up and we promote it in a way that will help alleviate the precinct locations of long lines. So, you know, just having a week of early voting when people can come in from all the different precincts throughout the city is very convenient, and we want to keep trying to forge that message. The August primary did decide several county, state, and federal races. Most of them were incumbents, or just about all, and then the state, the Senate race, federal Senate race, has been narrowed down. So as we go to November, voting does matter. And please remember to exercise your right. And we're here to serve you. You can call the clerk's office at any time, 248-796-5150. And just want to reiterate, it was a very busy time. I'm just getting back from Disney World myself because, you know, as people say in successful efforts, I'm going to Disney World. And this was a successful effort, and I expect a successful canvas to this election. So thank you all, council, administration, mayor's office, other departments within the city, our code people, our fiscal services that welcome all the precincts back in and do a pre-count before everything goes to the county. I just want to say it's an effort that you all would not believe until you see it. And one day I expect and hope that our voting workers, our poll workers, begin a speakers group and go out and talk about their experience just working as a resident within our elections. So thank you, and I'm done for tonight, and everybody's ready to go.
Thank you. Council, just a reminder that Thursday, we have a meeting at 6 o'clock in the council conference room. And if there is no other business, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.